Let's talk about love and marriage, the way that God intended. Life experience, here we share it. The No Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. No Fruit Podcast. We'll help your spirit transform.
Thank y'all very much for tuning in to the No Fruit Podcast. This is Maurice.
And this is Kafi.
And we have a special guest today. He is a coach, a husband, a father, as well as the author of Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. And his passion and expertise are in guiding people, several hundred and counting, in overcoming the fear of uncertainty that is standing in the way of life that they are created for. He has also created several online tools and courses to equip his clients to accelerate the impact that they are meant to have in their business, relationships, and life. I thank y'all very much for tuning in, and I present to you Mark. Mark, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Sure, no problem. So,
Mark, to get things off and started, again, we're so glad you're here. And Maurice and I have been talking a lot about some various topics, and some of them is just communication and just knowing ourselves. And one of the things I think that we deal with in a relationship is just overcoming imposter syndrome. As, you know, just part of our life's process. And I want to know if you can talk to us a little bit about what things we can do on a daily basis to help us overcome some of these imposter syndromes that we have as being a parent, being a spouse, and maybe even in our own work relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I appreciate that. And, you know, like you said, imposter syndrome is really not believing that you are measuring up or not believing that you're qualified for the role that you're in. And isn't it interesting, as you guys know and I do as well, as a husband, father, parent, you know, mother, wife, whatever the thing is, a lot of times, you know, I remember where imposter syndrome reared its ugly head. It was when my wife had our baby daughter, Alyssa, and they, for some reason, trusted me enough to put her in my arms as soon as she was born. And I knew exactly at that moment that I was not qualified for this job and didn't know the first thing about what I was doing. The challenge is, as you know, Kafi and Maurice, is that's kind of what happens in a lot of areas of life, whether you get promoted in a job or you try and start a business, or you're newly married and you move into the same room, same home, same kitchen, same bathroom, and you're trying to figure out what does communication look like. So, you know, the work that I do, the opportunity I have to work with the clients and people that I invest in, you know, that's one of the most common things. It's really understanding that these things are common, but they're not necessary. And what I mean is that imposter syndrome is really me believing that I'm unqualified, which really means that I'm living from an identity that's not who I was created to be. What I tell my clients is that you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you are. And it's always our past, our pain, our experiences, the things we believed and the things that were said to us that informs who you think you are. So for me, it really comes down to the things I use through my course or my book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, is investing in people so they start to understand, you know, the two main goals of my course and my book, which is understanding who you're created to be, so that you can have the life you're created for, and overcoming the things that are standing in the way, which is this, you know, singular lie that says I'm not qualified for.
So here's the thing, Mark. First, let me say this. I'm gonna back up for a second. When our son was born, right? The nurse explained to Kafi, you know, you're not ready to give birth, right? You're not there yet, right? Even though you're having pains and everything else.
It wasn't fully dilated yet.
That's what she said. Then she checks Kafi, and then she said, "Oh no, stop!" She turns and runs out the room. I walk up and bow. Here comes my son. So I believe that I'm a doctor, right?
For a minute, right?
Yes.
Right. But it's funny because, you know, sometimes we have these moments or these situations that thrust us into thinking or believing that we're something for the moment, for the season, or or whatever it is, and we get a moment of delusion, I guess, or grandeur, because we might have been celebrated in that, and sometimes we're in this position. So how do we get to a place where we understand where that might not necessarily be our position just because we're celebrated in that, or we got success in that one particular moment?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Maurice. And for the people that I work with and the things that I do, really, I mean, just if I could backtrack for a quick second, I don't want anybody to think I'm an expert because I've had great ideas or thoughts. Really, what I am is an experienced person who used the tools and the things that he needed, the strategies and tools to be able to have those successes, what I call that transformational journey in my own life. That's where the book came from. That's where the course came from. It wasn't a great idea. It was a journey I lived, documented, and then helped other people walk through that blueprint to success and healing. So that out of the way, here's an interesting thing. There's a thing I tell people, and it's this. If you don't know what your identity is, the world has to make up the difference. And it comes in both directions. It comes in needing to be wanted or valued. It comes in needing to have success and fame, right? And it's from those accomplishments, those accolades, like you said, those things that you need. And all of a sudden you start to think that those are who you are. And while it can be arrogance, it's also insecurity in disguise. Because in that time, like Maurice, right? If you're an athlete and all of a sudden you don't have a career, or you have a job and you're somebody of of worth and value, and you're accomplished in whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden you lose it, or whatever the circumstance is, right? Life happens to everybody. In those times, you can kind of falter a little bit because now all of a sudden the thing that I thought I was, I'm not. So what we really do in our course and in the book is start to unpack that and say, hey, for me, it all comes down to identity. Identity is everything. I tell people that my wife doesn't allow me to have a tattoo, but if she did, the tattoo I would get would say this: identity is everything, because it is. As a person of faith, I see that in the Word of God. I mean, I could unpack it in a few different areas, but what you'll see is that everywhere that God's always speaking to people who they are, and then telling them the thing that they're supposed to do, their impact, their call, their purpose, their mission. We get it backwards, where we try and find the mission to prove who we are.
Wow.
Which is exactly, again, Satan's first temptation to Jesus was, if you are the Son of God, turn these stones to bread, which means this: if this is really who you believe you are, then prove it.
Right.
Well, that's the same thing we're trying to do till today. So those things of, believing that now all of a sudden I'm somebody of importance because of whatever that, the fan club, the people that love me, the social media likes or whatever, or the net worth and the money that I'm making and the position that I'm in, right? All of them are great things, but they're outcomes of who you are.
Right.
They aren't who you are. You're apart from those things. And that's something that, again, we kind of do a mindset shift and help people understand, hey, identity is something more important than the activity. And once you understand that, now all of a sudden you're bulletproof in any time of your life. It doesn't mean challenge doesn't happen, struggle, strife, issues, right? Like I said, life happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But what it does mean is your circumstances don't get to tell you who you are anymore. And in that place, you get to live in this freedom, this transformation, and what I call that life mastery journey of effortlessly living from who I am, not hoping that my life makes up the difference in who I believe I'm not.
That's good. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing a lot is what runs through my mind is just, again, some of the differences for different generations. So at one particular time, generations before us were... I'm a baker. Like, my grandfather was a baker, and that's who he was.
Right.
Like, that's how he introduced himself. Like, that's, what he did, his 9 to 5 or whatever his career was, whether you're a doctor, like, that's what it was. That was their identity, and they didn't really see themselves anywhere else outside of that. And then I think another generation that I can think of, or maybe it's just a cultural thing, where people are like, they're born into certain things, and it's like they have to grow up and become this professional, and then they are blindsided when that doesn't happen because they don't know where else to go. So it's kind of a different thing. It's kind of still the imposter syndrome type thing, but it's a little bit different because now they don't know where to go. Like, if I'm no longer a baker, something happens to me and I can't bake cakes anymore, then who am I? Where's my identity? And then if you grow into a family and everyone in the family were lawyers, and it's just like, you're going to be a lawyer just like your dad and just like your uncle and everyone else, and then that doesn't happen, then, again, that whole part with the identity becomes troubled. So talk to us a little bit about like when that happens, like,
Yeah.
when people get into that space and they can't really identify with who they are, or midlife crisis, like, hey, I've always done these things, but now I'm older and I can't do as much as I used to do. What do we do with those individuals, and what encouragement do you have for those?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Kafa, because there's really two sides to that coin, right? There's the I strived for this thing and I didn't get it, whether it's a degree or it's a position or it's a title or it's a role, right? I'm a doctor. I need to be a doctor because everybody in my family of importance is supposed to be a doctor, whatever. Equally bad is the other side of the coin, which is I did get that role and I'm miserable in it, right? Those people that expected life to be better, life to be, grander. This is going to solve everything. For me in my own life, I grew up, and you could unpack some of, what my past told me I was, whether it was, academic struggles in school and believing I wasn't as smart as, and I wasn't as sharp as everybody else, or, family issues that said that, the love wasn't there. So you felt like you weren't somebody of value. Well, you carry that into adulthood, and many times, first off, that one side of the coin that you talked about, I need to be this because is I need to be accepted. And the only way I can be accepted is if I follow through on what other people tell me I'm supposed to be. And then there's the other side, the side that I was in, which was I'm going to prove I'm somebody of worth and value by succeeding, by having a business, by doing this or doing that, right? Completed college and got, involved in business and was very successful, at the level, I wasn't a multimillionaire, but we were successful enough that we were able to sell our business for a six-figure profit. The whole time we're in business at whatever level of success, that understanding that fear of failure, that imposter syndrome you talked about never left. See, I thought success would make all of that go away. And I find that with my clients as well. You're in some cases, one or the other. The people I find who are most disenchanted are the ones who think that, this fear, this worry, this not feeling valued or worthy as an individual. Well, now I'm going to be successful. And you see that all over the place, right? With rock stars or artists or whoever it is that's out there, athletes or, people that are doing highly well in academics. And there's another part of their life that's a disaster. Because then what they thought was this one thing is going to overcome everything. What they didn't realize, like with myself, is fear, failure, and imposter syndrome didn't leave. They just came along for the ride. And here's where the difference is. When you understand who you're created to be, your life doesn't get to tell you who you are. You get to tell life who you are. And in that place, whether it's the person who's trying to measure up to somebody else's ideal, or it's the person that thought success was going to be amazing, but I'm still fearful, I'm still worried, I still don't feel like I'm enough. In both of those places, you'll never be enough until you understand that you were already enough from the very beginning. Again, I'm a person of faith, so it's easy to see it scripturally. It's hard to live it actually. But in that place of, again, one of the tools we give is allowing our people to do an I am statement. Who are you apart from? The expectations, the worries, your job, your position, your power, your income, whatever the things that have told you are something. What are you apart from those things? That's the person you really are. And once you can get into an understanding of that, we have other tools we use, a celebration list and an accomplishment list. But really what we're trying to do is give you a vision for who you are apart from the things you do. Because in that place, now all of a sudden, I don't have to measure up to somebody else's idea of who I'm supposed to be, unless it aligns with who I know I am. And I don't have to use my success to make up for my feeling of not being valuable or worthy enough, because I'm worthy before I even do it. When you find out who you are, all of a sudden your life doesn't have to make up the difference, and you don't have to prove it. You just get to walk in it.
Right.
So, Mark, I am working in a company, and my whole time I've been there, I have been successful. Now I'm in a position where I feel as though I need to kind of pivot a little bit, because I'm starting to understand who I am just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But in this space of pivoting, I am very uncomfortable. And I don't like being uncomfortable. And I'm not used to being in that position, because every time I've done that, I've run away. I'm running away from who I believe I'm supposed to be. So how do I deal with being in that space of of being uncomfortable because I'm not used to that. And when I have been used to, and when I've been that way, I'm used to someone coddling me, right? Holding me or whatever else. But how do I deal with this, especially in a place where I feel like I'm alone?
That's a great question, Maurice. And it really is kind of a pivotal question because it comes down to this. There's the why question behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you feeling uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I tell people is so we have the identity piece of what we teach people, and that's the I am statement, the celebration list, and the accomplishment list. We have the transformational strategies we use with people, which is mastering your thoughts, words, and actions.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other things we unpack and give strategies into is what we call 4 pillars of life mastery, which is identity. Identity is everything. Your life either starts with identity or it starts with experiences. My past telling me who I am, or my created value telling me who I am. So it's identity, experience, meaning, and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so to quickly unpack this, if I don't live for my identity, I'm living for my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What I say is that your present circumstance will only confirm what your past experiences told you about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from identity. When I understand who I am, then my past is in the place where it's supposed to be, experiences that I've walked through, not an identity statement that I own.
Mm-hmm.
And my present gets to be experiences that I just engage in. But here's the challenge. In a person like that, here's what I know about him or her.
Mm-hmm.
Your experience is informing you about yourself. And it's not the challenge that you're working in, right? I don't understand this new role. I have things that I've got to learn that I'm not good at, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the skill set yet, whatever it is. It's not the experience you're walking through. It's the meaning you give, right? Identity, experience, meaning, and emotion. And so that third one, meaning, really comes down to this. It's not the meaning of the experience. It's the meaning that you take from it, which is your identity statement that the experience tells you. It's not that I have struggles and challenges and things I need to walk through and understand the skill sets and the tactics and the things I need to do to learn this job. It's the fear that I'm not good enough to be able to accomplish it. And so somebody who runs away or doesn't reach out for those big goals, those amazing dreams in their life, is a person who's fearful that they won't succeed. Because and what does failure say about me? So this man or this woman, the first thing I would say is, what's the definition of the meaning you're giving your experience? Not what the thing is you're working through, but what does it say about you? Because it's that thing that's holding you back. It's that thing that has caused you to bail out on things in your life when they get tough, rather than persevere no matter what the outcome. And then check this out, Maurice. So we have that fourth area, right? Identity, experience, meaning, and emotion. Your emotion follows your meaning. Your meaning doesn't follow your emotion. Meaning this, in that place where I feel that I'm not good enough, the identity statement is, I'm going to fail again. People are going to find out I'm not as smart as I was hoping to be. Well, the proper emotion in a place like that is fear and worry and stress and all of those things that come along with it. What I tell people is, emotion is the flag that's being raised, telling you where you have something you should address. And so in that place with that guy, the first thing I would say, that one man or woman is, what's the meaning that you're giving? What's it saying about you? If you weren't to succeed, if you were to fail, if you to lose the job or they'd demote you or whatever the horrible outcome is we make up in our brain, what would that say about you? And where, again, I'm sorry, this could be, this is a 14 lesson course that I'm doing in a 5-minute conversation, but, and so that area where I'm feeling insecure because I don't feel like I'm enough and I'm going to fail at this position. That's kind of unpacking the whole scenario. Okay. So the question we have after that is, when was the first time you felt like that? Again, if you don't live from identity, you live from your past. And the problem with your past is it's really loud in your present. And so in that place, what I was dealing with back then gave me an identity statement that I've carried all the way into my adulthood. It always has a root. We deal with roots in our course. We don't deal with fruit, because if you deal with fruit, you'll continue to have to prune that tree. But if you deal with the root, then the tree dies and you never have to deal with it again. That's what transformation is, not change. A lot of personal development courses have change. They're cutting off fruit all the time. Manage the fruit, right? Anger management, insecurity. You say your mantras, do your top 10 scriptures, or do whatever it is. And I'm a pastor. I know the word of God is powerful. The problem is we use it as mantras and magic formulas, not instructions. So back to their initial story. Where do you first hear that? What was the experience you walked through? What's the lie you believed, and what's the truth you know? The lie is I felt insecure, and I failed in school, and felt like I wasn't as good as everybody else. Yeah, but what was the truth? The truth is you may have been, intellectually immature at that moment. It doesn't mean you were an intellectually immature individual. It may be that you didn't have the ability to understand that, and it was tougher for you at that time. It didn't mean that you were a person that could never be better and greater. So when you start to understand that truth, now all of a sudden this man or woman, all of a sudden it starts to lose a grip on them. They don't start to believe that. Their thoughts change, their words change, and their actions change. So now all of a sudden they do the brave thing of walking into something that can be uncomfortable, because I know who I am and who I am is enough. And I'm somebody that's capable enough. Whether I succeed or fail, I'm going to be proud of me either way, because I'm betting on me and stretching myself as far as I can to have as much as I can and everything that I'm created for.
Wow, Mark.
That's great.
I appreciate, all the information you have given today. Unfortunately, our time is kind of short, but
For sure.
but Mark, I have one last question. I am unsure of where I am and who I am, and I'm in the valley. How can you teach me how to be a myrtle tree in that valley? Where nothing's supposed to grow in the valley, right? But this myrtle tree mysteriously did. And so how can I be that? Where can I reach out to you to find out how to be that person in the valley that still grows and blossoms?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you want to know where to reach me at, I'm a one-stop shop. I have a website that's freedom-for-life.net. And there you can find my book, the Life Mastery book that we talked about today. You can find the course Life Mastery that we talked about today. You can even find a free discovery tool. That discovery tool is just 40 quick questions. You take your score at the end. And what it'll tell you is where I'm at in my life mastery journey, that myrtle tree, or it'll also tell you what's the next step I can take in that life mastery journey. So wherever you're at in your journey, there's always the point of understanding, okay, this is where I'm at. But where real value comes in is understanding, okay, well, this is one step I can take into the direction of who I'm created to be. All that's on my website.
Nice.
Great.
So, but we do have one last question for you. Our special question that we ask all of our guests.
Yes.
Kafa, would you love to ask the question?
I would love to ask Mark this question because, as he said, he's a man of faith and a pastor and all those great things. So our question for all of our guests, it's a tough question, so we're going to dig a little deep, no fruit. You're going to dig into those roots, like you said. So if you were to sing a duet with anyone, dead or alive, who would you sing that duet with?
Oh, okay. So I hate to qualify questions. So, nobody may even know who this lady is. Her name is Patsy Cline.
Oh, yes.
So I'm a person that, I grew up, I'm a country guy at heart, grew up in Oklahoma. My dad was from Kansas, so on and so forth. She was one of the early icons of country music, a woman. She had a voice that was so pure back in the day when you didn't have all the extra equipment to help a voice out. She had a voice that was so pure. I listened to her voice one time and I cried.
It's very clear, very clear voice.
It was literally such a beautiful voice, and naturally beautiful because, again, back in the day, it was just, tape on a reel, recording equipment. It didn't have all the dubbing and the things that they do now. She died early, actually, and like pretty much everybody did in the 50s and 60s. There was a lot of, don't be somebody in music in that era. But there's a lot of people I love. I love Whitney Houston. Obviously, Mariah Carey is beautiful. I like Whitney Houston better. Sorry, I don't mean to throw that out there. There's a lot of people I like, a lot of styles and music, but that lady was just purely beautiful in her genre. And even today, I think she's the best female country singer that's ever lived.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, if I could come alongside and do something with a person like that, that would have been fun. So
great.
Weird answer, sorry, but that's
no, it's not weird at all. Yeah, not weird at all. Yeah. Maurice thinks I'm weird because my grandma used to she loves country music. She's still alive. So I grew up watching Hee Haw and all those types of things. So I understand when you said her name, I knew exactly who you were talking about.
Yeah, and right. Right, Kafa? She had an amazing
Yes,
voice
yeah,
for the
yeah.
for the equipment. She carried it. Wow, she was
Yeah.
beautiful.
And I
But anyway,
think
sorry, I don't want to take over the convo.
no. And I think
No.
country music is very, very close to gospel in Christian, Southern, so it's just something about it,
Exactly.
the feeling that's behind it. I've turned Maurice on to a couple of great country songs. So
Yeah.
The older stuff, though, right? Or
no, some of the stuff is new. Like I've watched it.
Okay. Good for you.
Yeah. So some of the newer stuff, like I haven't not the 2000s, maybe before then. I don't
Yeah, a
remember.
little
Yeah.
bit.
So yeah. I can hear the couple of songs in my head now. So yeah. So but yeah, just great stuff. Like
Right.
my other aunt on my dad's side, she loved the Judds. So
Okay.
again, I grew up on that. So
Yeah.
You have a lot of country in you. I like that about you.
Yeah.
so yeah. So yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
but we thank you very much for playing along with our very, very hard question.
Absolutely. That was a great question. I appreciate it. It really pulled something out of me.
But again, Mark, thank you very much. And of course, all your information will be in the show notes for the show.
It's been a joy being with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right,
you,
thank
Mark.
you. And of course, y'all, thank you very much for listening to the No Fruit Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you very much. Talk to y'all a little later.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.